Hello beautiful ladies, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about how to take your hobby game from okay to classic. I love hobbies. I love making things, I love creating things, I love writing, I love all of the above. And so for me, hobbies are a really good way for me to express myself. And I think that everybody should have some sort of hobby that they really enjoy. It doesn't necessarily have to be creative. The ones that I like to do are, but I think there are a lot of different things that you can incorporate into your life that will just kind of give you a little extra burst of happiness when things are a little bit slow or boring or whatever it is. So the first hobby I want to talk about is knitting. When I was growing up, my grandmother stayed with us for a few days after she had gotten surgery, and while she was at our house, she decided to teach us all, me and my sisters, how to knit. I have used that ever since. Now, I will say I am not very good at knitting, so I stick with like 2 different stitches, the knit and the purl, and I pretty much only make scarves. But I find knitting so relaxing, and it really kind of helps me focus as well when I'm watching TV or if I'm talking to my husband. It's something for me to do with my hands. And I just love it because at the end of, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, I have a beautiful scarf to show for my fidgety hands. Now, if you're somebody who actually could take knitting to a whole other level where you're making more than just scarves, you're making sweaters, you're making ponchos, that is even better. But of course, I'm just somebody who likes to knit scarves because I love having something to do. And if you're somebody who likes having something to do and having something to show for it while you're just watching TV or in a conversation with someone, then you should definitely consider taking up knitting. You end up with so many pretty scarves around the house or whatever it is that you make, and it's all handmade with love by you. And that is a really classic thing. Next up is cooking. Now, you guys know how I feel about cooking. I think it's a really important skill to have for anyone, male or female, but I think it's also something you can make into a hobby. If you turn it into something where you're kind of trying to discover new recipes, then you'll end up really enjoying the whole process of cooking. Now, there are some weeks where you're just trying to get food on the table. So on those weeks, cooking might not be a hobby. But the times where you have a little bit of extra time or you decide you want to do a little bit of research and maybe buy the right ingredients, that can make cooking so much more fun. And it's just such a classic way to keep your house ship shape and really delicious. Now, my next hobby is actually my job, but it's also my hobby, which is singing. I think that singing is a lovely hobby to have, and maybe taking a few singing lessons or learning some new songs and just singing around the house or taking time to really sing for yourself is just a really nice thing to do, and it's a really feminine, classic thing to do. I love singing, as you guys know, but I sing not operatically all the time around the house. Sometimes I'm just kind of humming or whatever it is, and singing is such a nice hobby. It's just a way for you to express yourself, and it's not something you have to put down on paper. It's sometimes just something that you get to do, and it's ephemeral, and it just makes people happy to hear. If you have a partner, I think that if you're not singing all the time and being really loud, they might really enjoy having a little songbird around the house. And if you're alone, it's something that kind of can break up the quiet. So I love singing, and I think it's a really nice hobby to have. My next recommendation is gardening. Now, I haven't gardened in a really long time, but I'm hoping to garden a little bit once the weather gets nicer, because actually a good friend of mine and my husband's, for our wedding, he gave us some seeds to plant for flowers, and I just love the idea of that, but I think I've never felt rooted down enough to kind of start a garden. So taking the time to plant yourself a garden, whether that be fruits or vegetables or just flowers, I think is so nice, and it really puts you in touch with nature, and I would really like to kind of reinvest my time in that, and I think it's also just a very classic, beautiful hobby. The next hobby that I have is jewelry making. Now, when I was living at home a while ago, I did learn how to make jewelry. If you use wire and you use certain tools, it's actually not that difficult, and you can make jewelry that you really enjoy. I don't do it so much anymore, but I think it's a really nice thing to do for yourself if it's an easy way for you to express yourself creatively. And maybe you end up making things for your friends as gifts, and that's super nice too. So having the skill to make your own jewelry ends up being really handy. Actually, for my wedding, I used those tools, and I used that experience that I had picked up when I was younger and living at home, and I actually made the belt that I wore for my wedding, and it was made of pearls and Swarovski crystals, and I put on a little clasp at the end because I had that experience. So just knowing how to work with jewelry and make jewelry is a really nice hobby to have. My last classic hobby is creative writing. Now you guys know that I write for my blog. I also write for EV Magazine, and you can write whatever you like. It can be a blog post, it can be a story, it can be your thoughts, it can be in a journal. But any kind of writing I think is just a really nice hobby to have. Sitting down with a physical pen and paper is so important, I think. I hate keeping my calendar on my phone. I actually don't do it. So all of my stuff is in a handwritten calendar, for example. And that translates over to just writing in a journal or writing in a notebook and having that expressive, creative writing part of yourself. I think exploring that and figuring out exactly what you love writing about will add to you and who you are and really contribute to you in a very classic way. Do you guys do any of these hobbies? What other hobbies would you consider classic? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my channel and blog if you haven't already. Go ahead and hit that notification bell. Head over to my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and follow me there, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!